All right, good. I can see that a quite number of you are hearing me. So on that note, we can begin the class. My name is Adeoye Olasokan, like you can see on the screen. And I believe also you can see my face. Don't mind my onion style of dressing, it's because of the cold. I want to apologize for shifting the class a little. I was engaged with the university assignment, so I couldn't help but to postpone the class till this time. However, it's a good time for us to start. And the topic we'll be discussing today is the nature and the subject matter philosophy. That will be your first study session in GST 112, Logic and Philosophy. So this class is going to be an interactive class because it will be more of facilitation. So I'll be facilitating your knowledge about this subject matter, which means for every class, you need to have read to some extent, because I'll be calling on some of you to answer one or two questions. So it is based on what you have read that I will ask questions about, then I'll be able to explain more about it. So you should be prepared for the class at every point in time. Now let me give you a brief introduction about the course. Like I said earlier, the title of the course is Logic and Philosophy. Now this course has 4 study sessions. The first study session is the one we'll be discussing today, Nature and Subject Matter Philosophy. We'll discuss about the various conceptions of philosophy and different definitions given by different philosophers. After we are done with that, we'll move to epistemology, which is the study of knowledge. Then from there, we'll move to metaphysics. That's study of the composition of heart, the heart we live in. Thereafter, we'll go to fallacy. In fallacy, we have different sections there. We'll talk about different types of fallacy. We'll define fallacy. Then different types of fallacy. We talk about arguments. That is where we are going to conclude the course. Now, let's start with today's topic. What is philosophy? I know philosophy is not a new thing for you this is not the first time you are hearing about philosophy. But in view of the commonness of philosophy, I would like one or two of you to give me one or two definitions. Is anybody ready to do that? If you are ready to give me a definition, you can unmute yourself and you speak up. Yeah. Or you want me to be calling your... Somebody is disturbing us already. What is happening?
Hello. Hello, sir.
Okay, go on.
Hello, sir.
Hello, go on. We can hear you. Introduce yourself.
I'm Christy Atere. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, all right. Good afternoon.
Yes.
So you want to give us a definition based on what you
read?
Please
yes.
Go on.
I think philosophy is a way of thinking about the world, the universe, and the society.
All right, that's excellent.
The way an individual think about the world, the universe, and the society.
Okay. Thank you for that definition. So you can mute yourself now. So another person want to try? Okay. Okay, is Esther there? Okay, you can unmute yourself now and talk, Esther.
Hello.
All right, please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Philosophy is simply the way, like, it's the study of human behavior in relation to their environment also.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. You can mute yourself now. Okay, let me call on Florence. If you are there, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Philosophy can also be defined as the love for wisdom, predisposed to a critical attitude.
Okay. Okay. Love for wisdom. All right. Thank you for that definition. You can mute yourself now. And let me look for one more person to call. Okay. Let me call Lillian. Lillian, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Philosophy can be defined as the attitude and skills for thinking critically about the world and the universe.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for the answer that you have given. Now, I can see that majority of you have gone through your study material based on what I can see you define when I ask, what I can hear you define when I ask the meaning of philosophy. Now, please, if you are writing something on the screen, kindly stop doing that. I want to clear it now. All right. Please, the person is drawing on the screen again. Please stop that. All right. Now, various people have defined philosophy in various ways. Now, let me give you an example of one person. The name of that person is Socrates. We call that man father of philosophy. He defined philosophy as an academic subject, just as you are doing now, that exercises reason and logic in an attempt to understand reality and answer fundamental questions about knowledge, about life, about morality, about virtue, about human nature. In summary, it defines philosophy as asking questions about everything. You know, when you talk about knowledge, you talk about life, you talk about morality, virtue, human nature, it has encompassed everything it is in the world. So that is how Socrates defined it. Now there's another man, he's called Ludwig Wittgenstein. He said, philosophy is not a theory or a doctrine, but rather it is an activity. And this activity creates clarification of thoughts. And that thought can be critiqued. That is, you can ask questions about that thought. If I said logic and philosophy is the best course at LAUTECH open and distance learning, I must be able to critique it, say why, the reason why it is the best course, the advantages it has over others. That is the point of view that Wittgenstein is looking at philosophy. Now, let's look at Rousseau. He said, philosophy is the science of the possible. This statement is intended by him to sum up two distinctive characteristics of any philosophical question. That is, it must be general and it must be a priori, that is by experience. Now, let me give you a common definition that it will be easier for me and you to understand let's take the word philosophy as a case study. Now, philosophy is a two words that comes together to become one. The first part of it is philo. The second part of it is what? Sophia. These two words are gotten from Greek words. Now, what does philo means? I don't know if there's anybody in the house that can give me answer to that, because I know you must have studied your material. Just raise up your hand and I will call one or two persons. Two people to give me what philo means and two persons to tell me what Sophie means. Good. Alice, you can unmute yourself and tell me the meaning.
I
I can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Philo means love.
So what does philo mean? Philo
Love.
means love. Good. All right. Another person? Mary, you can unmute yourself.
The Sophie means wisdom.
All right. Sophie means wisdom. All right, good. Good. Does anybody want to try again, or you have another view? If you have another view about it, okay, let me call Oyenike. Oyenike, unmute yourself and speak.
Philo means love. Why wisdom? Sophia means wisdom.
Sophia means wisdom. Good,
Yeah.
good. You can mute yourself back. Now, based on what you guys have given me, I can see that you are really doing well in this thing. Now, you can see on your screen, philo means love, Sophia means wisdom. Now, when these two words, when they come together, they become what? Philosophy. That is how we come about philosophy. Now, if you combine it, it says love for wisdom. Love for wisdom. Now, from this, if you now relate this love for wisdom to what the definitions some of your colleagues have given us when we started this class, you will see that they are in line, because everything tends towards asking critical questions, knowing more about your environment, knowing more about one or two things. That is what philosophy is all about. So you can see that philosophy is love for wisdom. That is constant and persistent search for wisdom. And this search for wisdom presupposes a critical thinking attitude, because what this means is that for you to think in depth, that means you must have a love to know more. You really want to know more about something. Now, let's go to another subtopic. It's talking about the relationship between science, technology, and philosophy. It's telling us that there is more like a relationship, that philosophy is no man's land between science and theology. What this means is that philosophy can be related to science and theology. It also differs from science and theology, but there is this kind of similarities that encompass them together, that makes them come together and be seen as a whole. Now, let's first consider their similarities, then we'll consider their differences. Now, philosophy is like science because it engages in critical thinking and understanding of the world. But it differs from it because science, it uses empirical examination and experimentation to study the world. You see that first phase? it discusses about how it relates to science and how it differs from it. Science think critically. That is what led to experiments in the first place. I want to know how acid will react when I pour it inside base. That is science, critical thinking, philosophy. You recall we said philosophy is love for wisdom. And we said for you to love wisdom, then you must have a desire to know more. Science wants to know what will happen when acid is being poured inside base. That is the relationship between philosophy and science. But however, how it differs from science, you will need experiment to substantiate that knowledge. Philosophy will only ask questions. You can see how it differs. Now, let's consider that of theology. It's like theology because it inquires into the world beyond sense. It inquires beyond sense, beyond experience. That is, even if you have not experienced it before, if you can explain it. And in theology, we believe in miracle. You might not be able to reproduce it, but once it happened, God from above has answered us. So far, you can think beyond these things. It relates to philosophy also. Now, how does it differ from theology? It relies on faith. Theology relies on faith. Why philosophy does not rely on, you have to be able to explain what it is. But theology, it is based on faith. We don't see God, but we believe in God. But philosopher, we ask you to tell me how God looks like. If you cannot explain how God looks like, how do you want me to believe in such? Now, philosophy also is seen as a gadfly. What is gadfly? Gadfly is something that keeps human beings on their toes. That is, it keeps you asking questions. Why? I want to go to school. Why? I want to learn nursing. Why? I want to learn computer science. Why? You know, you must be able to provide answers to all these questions. That is what philosophy does. If you tell me you can go to the moon, I will say, how? When you explain that how, it will lead to another question. That is, you have to be able to convince me beyond measure. That is what philosophy does. Now, with all these things that I have said, you will agree with me that we can therefore conclude that philosophy is critical inquiry into nature of things. Critical inquiry into nature of things. Critical inquiry into nature of things, because it keeps asking questions. If you say you can do this, I want to know why. I want to know why you are doing this. I want to know why you are going to LAUTECH. I want to know why you want to study your degree, why you want to have your certificate. Critical inquiry into nature of things. Now, let me tell you how this philosophy relates to your work environment. As a nurse, somebody presents himself or herself in your hospital. He said, I'm having a headache. What will be the next thing? You start asking questions. What was the last meal you had yesterday night? Where did you go to? What are you exposed to? You start asking questions. Why are you asking those questions? So that you can know how to treat the person. Can you see the relationship between your work environment and philosophy? Can you see the reason why you are doing philosophy in school? As a computer scientist, maybe they brought a laptop to you or they ask you to program. Maybe you should program a proctored monitoring examination software that can monitor students anywhere they are whenever they want to write their examination. Then you start to ask questions. You said, okay, where do you want to be doing it? Which side of which application do you want to use? Is it Chrome? You want it to be standalone? You want it to be, all those questions. Then you ask which programming language. Is it C++, Python, C#, and all that? It is after all those questions have been answered, then you can come up with what you want to do, like the programming language, like the application that you are trying to develop. Can you see how this relates to your course of study? So that's one of the reasons why you are doing this. Now you can see that all these definitions we have given in its own and to some degree capture some of what philosophy is about, or at least what people think it's about. But what we can glean from all these definitions is that philosophy is a kind of conversation about important questions, much of which is focused on human existence. Now we move to conception of philosophy. Conception of philosophy. All right. Now, going by the fact that there is no univocal definition for philosophy, we have different definitions from different philosophers. Attempts are made by scholars to capture the definition by classifying different ways of being philosophy under some conceptions. For instance, the first one that we have here, that's the conception of philosophy, is Socrates' conception of philosophy. Now, according to this, he said philosophy should be critical and philosophers must live by examples. That is, they must be moral exemplaries, they must be ready to stand by the truth, and should not be dogmatic. That is, this conception is usually, this conception is usually associated with Socrates and Plato. They are the ones that come up with this conception of philosophy. That's why they name it Socrates' conception of philosophy. So what this is trying to tell us is that whatever it is you believe in, if you cannot stand by it, it is not philosophical in nature. If you cannot be an example in that way, it is not acceptable. Now, the second one is philosophy as contemplation. What this one is trying to tell us is that philosophical questions, they are open-ended. What this means is that one question will lead to another question. Another question will lead to another question. So that is what it means when they said philosophical question and answer are open-ended. It believes that philosophers, they are citizens of the universe, versatile in knowledge of the world, and do not believe in compartmentalization of knowledge. They don't believe that knowledge is restricted. Anybody can acquire knowledge. That is what philosophy as contemplation means. The third one there is philosophy as analysis. He said philosophers should be contented with linguistic clarification and conceptual analysis. If I'm able to explain it to you and I'm able to define a concept that is in line with this, I was able to analyze it, that means it is a philosophy on its own. Then it should be acceptable. That is what this one is trying to say. And the fourth one there, that philosophy as unity of theory and practice. That is, philosophy can be seen as a way of uniting theory and practice to enable us make the world a better place. That is, if I can say it in theory, I must be able to put it into practice too. Now, I believe we have understand what this conception is trying to tell us. Now, the last discussion for this study session will be for us to identify various branches in philosophy. Philosophy encompasses a lot of things, a lot of branches. But at our level here, we'll focus on 4 major branches. The first one is epistemology. The second one is metaphysics. The third one is ethics. And the last one there is logic. Now, let me take it one by one so that you will have a brief knowledge of what this is. In the subsequent study session, we will do more on epistemology, metaphysics, and logic. That is, fallacy is under logic. So that is what the fourth study session will focus on. Epistemology, what is epistemology? Epistemology is simply study of knowledge. Simply put, study of knowledge. Like I said, philosophy like asking questions. Philosophers, they like asking questions because this is where they get wisdom. This is where knowledge comes from. This is where they are able to provide solution to various problems. Now, what are the questions that are asked under epistemology? The first one there is, what is knowledge? Can I have knowledge? Can you have knowledge? Can knowledge be acquired? Okay, if knowledge can be acquired, how can I get this knowledge? These are some of the questions that are asked under epistemology. And when we go to that study session, you are going to see sources of knowledge. You are going to see types of knowledge and some other things. And how you can acquire knowledge also. Yes, we are going to consider that. Now, the second one there is metaphysics. Metaphysics is a study of reality, study of our environment, study of what it is as reality. And they ask some questions also. The first of that question is, what kind of things actually exist? What are those things that actually exist? If you are talking about feelings, does feeling exist? That's a question that metaphysics asks. And this study is based under another course of study that is called ontology. Ontology studies about what actually exists. Then we have another one that asks questions about mind, philosophy of mind. So, like, do I have conscience? If you say I have conscience, what is the nature of my conscience? I hope you understand now. So those are the kind of questions that metaphysics, and it also asks questions about religion. What is nature of God? Where is God? Does God exist? All those kind of questions. Now, the third one there is ethics. Ethics. Ethics is the philosophical study of morality, and it answers questions such as, what makes an action right or wrong? If I say what you are doing is right, why am I saying it is right? If I say it is wrong, why am I saying it is wrong? So it asks questions about that and what to do so that at every point in time, ethics like to ask questions that what am I supposed to do? Like you are in school now, ethics will make you ask, okay, what am I supposed to do in school? I'm supposed to study, to provide answers to it, and that will guide you right. That means you will not go against the rules of the university. Thereby, you won't achieve what you set out to achieve in the first place. That is what ethics focus on. And logic focus about argument. What makes an argument right? What makes it work? What makes it fail? You know that this logic, the lawyers, they focus more on logic. Because when you are presenting case in court, you just discover that they will be using even your own word to antagonize you. Said, my lord, sir, you said so, and so. And if you deny that you did not say it, it's in the face of everybody. Your integrity will be at stake. I hope you understand. So that is what logic is all about. We'll just look at it briefly in the course of our study also. Now, on this note, we have come to the end of this first study session, and I believe you have had an interesting discussion so far. So I don't know if any of you have one or two questions so that we can answer them before I end this class. All right, I'm seeing some hands up. Let me see if one or two people are going to. Okay, another one. Okay. All right, let me start unmuting you so that you can ask your question and see how we can provide answers to them. A lot of people are raising up their hand. Olubumi Ajibade, yeah, go on. Unmute yourself and ask a question, please. Oluchi Oge, unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I appreciate you for this lecture. It's very concise and well explanatory.
All right.
You say that we have 4 branches of this philosophy, which is epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, and logic. So please, will you throw a little light to this ethics? I didn't really get your explanation. Thank you, sir.
All right, I want all of you to ask the question so that I can run through it. Is noted. So Ajibade, your question. Florence, you can go ahead to unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you very much, sir, for that brilliant lectures, and we appreciate you. The area I want to ask is under that branches of the philosophy. I want you to throw more light on the logic, sir.
All right. Monisola, you can ask your question. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you very much, sir. Well done, sir. My question is under the branches of philosophy. I really don't understand your explanation. I've not really gotten it well with epistemology. Epistemology.
All right.
If you can please explain.
Aminu Mazadu, ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Please, I would like, thank you for the lecture. I would like you to shed more light on these branches of philosophy. I came a bit late and my network was faulty, so I didn't really get what you are explaining.
All right. Sarah, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Sarah, we are waiting for you.
This is Olubumi Ajibade.
Okay, Ajibade is on. All right, go on.
Thank you for this beautiful lecture. I just want you to help us answer this question. I saw it in the lecture note, that we should state one difference between philosophy as analysis and philosophy as contemplation. Sir, help us to shed light on it, sir. Thank you, sir.
That's an assignment for you now.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Thank you, sir.
Ebere, go ahead and ask a question.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Please, I want to find out if we are asked in the exam to define philosophy with all these definitions, different definitions, which one is acceptable or are we expected to give during the exam as an answer to the definition of philosophy? Thank you, sir.
All right. Esther, unmute yourself and ask your question. Uzo, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sir. Hello?
Okay, go ahead, Esther. You have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much for the class, sir. My own question would be on that branch of philosophy. Please, I don't know if you can still help us recall on that epistemology. It's kind of confusing.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Uzo, go ahead. Go on. Uzo, go on. Abosede Florence, go on. Aminu, unmute yourself. Aaron Alice, unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. Well done, sir.
All
Please,
right.
I'd like you to shed more light on the difference between philosophy, science, and theology. I couldn't get that so well, sir. Thank you.
On philosophy and theology. All right. Uzo, unmute yourself and ask your question. It's gone. Then Olufemi, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go on.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for the lectures. There is this misconception that some people said philosophers are not godly. I just want more clarification on philosophy and religion, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Aminu, I can see you really want to ask this question. All right, ask your question, please. I hope network will do you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please,
right.
I would like you to help us send the video of this lecture so that we'll get the whole of it for those of us that came late.
You have the video. All right, the last person, Sarah.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the lecture, sir. First, are looking at philosophy as a critical inquiry into the nature of things. What is the marked difference between philosophy and research?
All right. Thank you. Now, having asked all these questions, I will start from the first one, or let me say the one that relates to the first part of the discussion. I said, what's the relationship between philosophy and religion? I think 2 or 3 people asked question in that area. You know, when somebody starts asking questions about existence of God, you know, it's going to create a lot of controversies. A lot of controversies. So that's the perception when they said philosophers are not religious, or they don't, or let me put it in this way, that philosophers don't believe in God. Some of them are asking questions, critical inquiry into nature of things. They want to know. And if you cannot explain it to them, they are not in line with that philosophy. Remember, we said we have different contemplation of philosophy. What you cannot explain to me, you cannot make me align with that philosophy of yours. Let's put that in that place as to philosophy and religion. Philosophy and theology, when we're talking about their similarities and their differences, he said philosophy is like theology, right? Because it inquires into what that is beyond sense and experience. Are you following me? What do I mean by that? You are praying to God when you church, when you go to mosque. Why are you praying to God? Because you believe is a superior being. Philosophy also believe that there is something superior somewhere. It's inquire be after this world. What is next? What is there? What exists outside the world? Philosophy also believe in that line. But theology believe in that line by faith. You don't have to explain it. You say, I have faith in God. But philosopher, we want you to explain that your faith in a way that I will understand. You said there is God at the end of this earth or beyond this earth. Have you seen it? What is the name of that thing? Does he have leg? How many head does he have? Can you explain? If you cannot explain it, philosophy does not go in that line. So I believe I also answered that. Then we talk about branches of philosophy. So many people are asking questions that focus majorly on epistemology. Now, don't worry, don't belabor yourself. We are going to take all these branches one after the other. Epistemology deals with questions regarding knowledge. Simply put, it is study of knowledge. What do we want to study in knowledge? We want to study sources of knowledge, types of knowledge. I hope you understand me. How can I get it? How can it be acquired? Do you understand? This is just an introductory class into philosophy. So don't worry yourself. And also on logic, like I said, we are going to do a course in study session 4. It's called fallacy. Now, under that fallacy, we are going to discuss briefly on arguments because logic deals more with arguments. If you are taking an action, why you are taking, and you state the reason why you are taking an action. If you want me to agree with that statement that you have made, I will now consider the two. The first one will premise, and the last one will call it conclusion. Does your premise agree with your conclusion? For example, somebody killed, I make reference to a lawyer in the court of law. Let me give you an example. Somebody killed somebody now, for example. They now take the person who killed another person into the court of law. And the lawyer now said, this my client is a young man. Please forgive him. Now, the question will now be, murder has been committed. He said the person is young, I should forgive. Is it because he's young that I will forgive, or because he has killed a person? I hope you understand. That is argument. You are now going to study the logic so that you can see a valid argument. Which one is valid there? Forgive because he's young. That is not a valid argument because something has happened. Premise, the person has killed somebody. Don't belabor yourself. We'll deal more extensively on this subject in study session 4. So just make sure you come to class regularly, read your study material before you come to class, and you are going to have an interesting discussion. Like I told you when I began this class, I said, I will only facilitate your knowledge. I will ask you questions, you will ask me questions, then you will know more about the course that we are talking about. I hope you understand me. Now, on this note, it will be a good time for me to end the class because some of your colleagues, they're having another class now. So thank you for coming to this class. See you in the next class. And also before you go, a quiz is available for you on the LMS right now on this course on this study session that we just finished. Make sure you do the course. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.